In the comments section of this channel, I am sometimes asked whether or not we at the Four Boxes Diner drink coffee. After all, it is a diner. And the answer is yes. And to prove that, I'm going to actually drink some coffee right here. Oh, it's very good. And this is part of our coffee break, which is a quick segment we're going to do right now here at the Four Boxes Diner. Because you see, there's a big story that came out a few days ago before Justice Breyer retired from the Supreme Court, or is in the process of retiring, and I want to discuss it because I think it shows how sort of the DC establishment media tries to manipulate and alter outcomes at the Supreme Court in various ways. And I think it's a good lesson here. And the story involves Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, a so-called conservative, and Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor, a so-called liberal, and their interaction with one another on the bench at the Supreme Court. A lot more going on here, and I want to talk about this right when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark, and welcome to the Four Boxes Diner. You may have seen a big news story recently about the U.S. Supreme Court broken by NPR, that's National Public Radio's Nina Totenberg, one of the reporters who covers the Supreme Court for NPR, okay? Now, there's two things I want you to be aware of involving Nina Totenberg, who's a very prominent D.C. journalist and has been for many, many, many years. First, she's been covering the Supreme Court for more than 4 decades. That's a long time, 40 years. And second, some consider her, in their opinion, to be kind of a poster child for the DC liberal media bias. So what is Nina Totenberg reporting now? Well, here's the news that sort of made the headlines all across the country. She claimed, based on her sources that all appeared anonymous, that Justice Neil Gorsuch refused to wear a mask despite Justice Sotomayor's concerns about COVID. Nina Totenberg reported that Justice Gorsuch's alleged refusal is the reason why Justice Sotomayor is hearing oral arguments by telephone and not in person at the Supreme Court. But, and this is a very big but, Justices Sotomayor and Justice Gorsuch released a joint statement. Very unusual for the Supreme Court to issue statements like this, denying the story. That's right. They said that it was not factually accurate. Here's what their joint statement said, quote, "Reporting that Justice Sotomayor asked Justice Gorsuch to wear a mask surprised us. It is false. While we may sometimes disagree about the law, we are warm colleagues and friends," close quote. So it seems like the story should be dead, right? It turned out it wasn't true. Well, not so fast, because Totenberg's liberal allies, as best I can tell, rushed to her defense. They started saying things like, wait, Totenberg never said that Sotomayor asked Gorsuch to wear a mask. She said that Chief Justice John Roberts did this requesting. Except then Chief Justice John Roberts issued his own statement about the story. You see, it turns out that Chief Justice John Roberts never asked any of the justices to wear a mask. So it seems like it's kind of a big allegation in Totenberg's story. Turns out doesn't appear to be true, right? Case closed, it seems to me. You know, all the primary players involved say not true, didn't happen. Again, not so fast, because NPR put out an incredible statement, in my opinion, saying that it stands by its reporting. Okay, but it seems like maybe the reporting didn't get the story right, but I guess, you know, inquiring minds want to know. So even though the 3 people in the story went on the record with their names, saying in writing, saying that the claims were false, it didn't happen, NPR still stands by 1 or more unnamed sources in the story. Now, I think there may be a bigger reason why Nina Totenberg's story still has legs. I think it's important to understand this, because you have to understand that the story, in my view, is not really about COVID. It's not about masking policies or even Justices Gorsuch or Sotomayor. I think, arguably, it's about undermining the legitimacy of the current composition of the U.S. Supreme Court. And because of that, in my opinion, the story doesn't even need to be true to be effective, right? It's just about casting aspersions on this court, a court that may be, we'll see, very friendly to Second Amendment rights and the right to keep and bear arms. It seems that Nina Totenberg's story does 2 things, as I see it. First, it makes a conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch, who's generally good on gun rights as best I can tell, look bad. right? Makes him look bad. Makes him look like a jerk if the story is true. Totenberg even calls him a prickly personality in the context of the story. Second, it also makes the entire Supreme Court and the justices on it look bad, in my opinion. And that's, I think, the real issue here. Because if the people that don't like what this current court is going to rule on and how they're going to decide cases, then they're able to sort of discredit this Supreme Court and the rulings and decisions it's going to be making. They can discredit the court and the decisions of the court. Very important. Now, if you think I'm reading too much into all of this, I'd like you to read Nina Totenberg's story on the NPR website. I'll put a link to it down below, because only the first 2 paragraphs even mention this masking issue, right? The mask issue. The rest of the story, I'm talking, as best I can count, 17. That's 17 paragraphs long, portrays the Supreme Court, really, in my opinion, as a partisan political organization beset by conservative activism, also known as, in my view, interpreting the Constitution as it's written. So Nina Totenberg's scoop, and it seems really like it's not a scoop based on the justice's clear, unequivocal public denials, is really just a hook, an excuse, if you will, to paint a picture of a so-called out-of-control, new conservative supermajority that is interpreting the Constitution as written and not making it up as they go along. Again, Nina Totenberg is considered by many a reliable mouthpiece for the left. I think that's my opinion as well. So what does a story like this accomplish in terms of end goals? Well, for decades, the left has used the courts to win victories they could never win through the democratic process. We know this. Think of things like abortion, not in the Constitution. Think of things like gay marriage, not in the Constitution. And yes, think about your right to keep and bear arms in the Constitution, but not respected by many. Most states have loosened up their gun laws, but the anti-gunners have achieved victory after victory in state and federal courts, in particularly those blue states where the gun control legislations are often passed. But now the left, or I should say now the anti-gunners and the people sympathetic to the anti-gunners, they don't have enough justice on the Supreme Court to rubber stamp their political agenda like they did maybe 10 years ago. And that scares them. They're very worried that they've lost control of the Supreme Court, in my view. So they have to portray the so-called conservative supermajority as the ones who are subtly politicizing things, simply by reading the law and applying them. In Totenberg's story, she quotes a law professor saying that the Supreme Court, quote, built its legitimacy by giving the left some of what it wanted and the right some of what it wanted, close quote. I think that's not right, because I think what you're doing is you're basically politicizing the Supreme Court when you define its legitimacy by political outcomes, right? It's supposed to be a rule of law court interpreting the law, not political. It's not supposed to be political. The Supreme Court, again, is not an agent of political reform. That's not its role. Its job is to determine whether laws are unconstitutional or not, or how to interpret federal statutes that maybe are ambiguous. But you see, again, this kind of political-oriented argument a lot from those that are kind of on the Democratic or the left-wing side and their allies in the mainstream media who just care about the outcome of the case and not the process it takes to get to the outcome. And you see, that way they don't have to get, so that way when they don't get the political outcome they want from the Supreme Court, they can then say that the ruling is illegitimate. It's not proper. The justices got it wrong. It's not right. And again, let's not forget, again, that the court is considering a huge Second Amendment case in NYSERPA versus Bruin. And guess what the left will say if the court rules in favor of gun rights? Again, we know what they're going to say, that the court was illegitimate, and therefore the Second Amendment decision, even though it's in the Constitution, was illegitimate as well. And one other thing, discrediting the Supreme Court also advances the agenda of those that want to pack the court with justices that will do the progressive agenda. That's how I see it. That far-fetched idea is getting new traction in many circles, okay? I mean, President Biden even appointed a presidential commission to investigate this question of expanding the court beyond its 9 justices, which it's had for a long time. Oh, and by the way, journalist Nina Totenberg also floats the idea of court packing in her story about masks on the Supreme Court. I don't think that's an accident. I think that was on purpose. But again, I hope you learned something here today, and thanks for joining me at the 4 Boxes Diner, where we serve fresh, hot Second Amendment news and analysis. And if you like what you heard, please subscribe and spread the word, and we'll see you next time here at the 4 Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.